Question to ask you in
Okay.
this informal interview.
Okay.
Since when did you start interest in learning foreign languages?
Oh, I've always been good at words, and languages have always been interesting to me, but it was really just in the course of my own formal education in college and in graduate school. I just studied more and more languages, but then when I finished school, that's when I really took off and studied a lot of them on my own.
You know, we are your students, and really we admire you a lot. You are so knowledgeable and really talented. And when did you find out that you have talent in languages?
Thank you very much for saying that, but I'm not really sure that I have a true talent in the sense. Sometimes you hear about, a child prodigy who can play the piano just like a concert pianist when he's still a little boy. I certainly don't have any real talent like that. Like I said, I've always liked words and language and that kind of thing, but I think it's more experience and and know-how developing than real pure talent.
No, I think if you don't have talent, there's no way you can very successful in learning so many languages. So
What makes you succeed in acquiring so many languages?
yeah.
Again, I think it's just truly hard work. I mean, I put in a lot of hard work every day of my adult life. Definitely, I've worked at it. Many hours a day, every single day for many years. I think that's the nuts and bolts of it, the real secret. But behind that too, I mean, why would I do that? Like you say, you like languages, but in order to learn lots of languages, you really have to, I think, have a different kind of interest and motivation. I mean, probably most people, when they think of learning a language, they just think of, oh, I need it, I can use it for something. Actually, that's never been my reason. I've never learned a language because I said, oh, I need it. Yeah, it's, to me, learning languages is more kind of almost like exercise. So you do physical exercise. Learning languages is a kind of mental exercise to keep your mind sharp. And I also think, yeah, I just almost, why would I even want to do mental exercise? I just find it very, because I'm aware that languages exist in the world. It makes me curious to know what they're like, and then I know that they have a culture behind them, so I want to learn about the culture, so I learn the language. So to me, learning a language is like expanding my mind. It has almost philosophical or spiritual dimension to it, because if you just stay inside the language that you happen to be born into, you're always thinking in a way that you've been kind of programmed to do. But if you think in a foreign language, then you're thinking in a way that you chose to learn how to do. And to me, that's kind of liberating and expanding in my mind. So that's kind of if I have that kind of motivation, it's interesting to me, so I just keep doing it.
And practice makes perfect.
And practice makes perfect, yes.
Even if we practice, we cannot be perfect. So don't deny that you are so talented.
Well, practice makes perfect, but you also have to know how to practice in the right way and practice under the right circumstances. Maybe.
So we don't think only hard work can succeed in acquiring so many languages like you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with 80% of comprehensive ability, 80%, so how long does it take you to achieve a new language with 80% of comprehension?
Okay, yeah, I did put 80% sort of as a cutoff level because people pushed me to describe my language ability, and to me that is sort of a cutting point when you can start to really read, but it's still very slow. You need much higher reading comprehension to just pick up a book and carry it around and read it with you. But to answer your question, to learn a language to 80% level, it depends on the language. I mean, a lot of the languages that I know are very closely related to each other. So a language like that, a language that's very closely to languages that I already know, I could learn a language like that in just a couple of days if I never was exposed to it before. But a language that's totally different, I mean, that's months and months and months of work. A language that's utterly culturally different, has a different vocabulary basis and the like. And then, yeah, 80%, it sounds like a lot, but that's really just the very beginning. It's kind of easy to, that's a level, an arbitrary level, but it's kind of easy to get to about that level, with about, 3 months good hard work, know-how, using good methods, having good opportunities and going at it, you can get to about that level of advancement. But then to get higher than that, to get to 90-95%, that takes infinitely longer for a hard language, a different language.
Yeah. So among all the languages that you have learned before, which language do you like the most, and which do you find the most difficult to learn?
Which language do I like the most? It kind of depends on my mood.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it depends.
Why?
You know, just certain days. I mean, some languages. Arabic has been for many years has been one of my very favorite languages that I do every single day. And so it's just very enriching to me to do it. But there are other languages too that I have periods that I go into very intensely. I don't know, Persian or Latin or other languages. But it's the languages that are most familiar to me, you know, the languages that are similar to English, like
French.
French, German, Italian, Spanish, that I probably find the most rewarding because I can get the most out of them. I mean, I'm still fighting my way into something like Arabic or Korean, whereas something like German or Italian, I can just, you know, really pick up a book and get into it. Language that I found hardest to learn, I've never tried Vietnamese, so I don't know. Vietnamese is one that I never got to.
So you pronounce Vietnamese perfectly, so I don't think you have any problems with Vietnamese.
But my brain is full. I don't have any more points.
You don't think so?
Well,
you are right.
What you should do is to zip. To zip your mind.
Zip files to make space.
Okay.
But of the languages that I learned, Korean took me the longest, hardest,
yeah.
because I was there.
Can you write Korean?
I can write Korean.
Okay.
But I mean, I spent 9 years on Korean, and I'm still
9 years.
Yeah, 9 years living there and working on it every day and having it around me, and I'm not as good in Korean as I am, say, in something like German or French. Yeah.
Okay.
It's really hard to write, yeah? Their symbols and their characters.
They have an alphabet.
They have the alphabet.
Yeah, they have their own alphabet.
There is a lot of circle in Korean language.
Circle stands for the vowel. It indicates that a vowel is coming. Yeah. So when you see a circle first, that means a vowel is coming.
So, as we know, beside the living languages, you also have acquired so many non-living languages. So, could you please help us understand what makes a living language die?
Well, you just said it. I mean, a language is alive. A language is a living thing. Living things die. I mean, but you know, you look at people, and people, you can tell they'll die in about 100 years or less. A language might last a lot longer, you know, relatively and in general. You can't look at a language and necessarily say it's old or young, but the definition of a living language means that it's growing and changing and alive. And so what happens in history, sometimes a language changes into another language. Sometimes it stays the same for a long time. And then, yes, because of history, you know, wars and things like that, you know, a language can get killed off. So, but yes, lots of the languages, that's another answer to your question. I mean, lots of the languages that I can read pretty well are dead languages, so I don't have to spend any time trying to, you know, speak them or converse in them, so you're able just to go and look at it and read it, but it doesn't mean you have overall abilities in it.
You know, there is one thing I'm very curious about, because I know some people who speak French perfectly, and when they start learning English, they speak English the way French do, and sometimes they are mistaken, like television to television, things like that. So you have learned and acquired and mastered a lot of languages. What techniques and strategies do you have to keep memorizing and distinguishing among all various languages that you have known?
I've never really had a problem mixing them up.
Why? Why not?
I think that people who have a problem mixing them up, mixing up foreign language in their head, I think that they just have one category for foreign languages in their head, and so they put everything there. And then when they reach into it and try to take things out and use it, they're all mixed up. They're not organized. But if you can organize your knowledge in your head, sort of, you know, envision having a cabinet or something, and having a drawer for French and a drawer for English.
Like different folders.
Right. Yeah, looking at it that way. But I've never had to do that in any conscious way. I mean, every so often, you know, I can't.
Even in writing, never before.
No.
Even.
No, to me, I mean, you know, it's like, particularly if I'm reading a book in a language, then I stay thinking in it afterwards. It's a distinct thing. I mean, I'm not going to mix you up with you or the other people. I mean, they're distinct individuals. So I haven't had to use any conscious technique to keep them separate.
So you become spontaneous when reading and using the languages.
Yeah.
So you can arrange and categorize the language in your mind, like computer can subcategorize.
And still, you say that you are
okay.
not talented.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, every so often I do mix things up. Like my Arabic is much stronger than my Persian. I've never really met a Persian person, an Iranian, and had a chance to have a conversation. But every time I've tried to just talk myself in Persian, my tongue does trip up with Arabic words because there's a lot of Arabic in Persian, and But it's not a living situation. I don't have a lot of people to talk to. In the past, when I've had similar things happen with. My Spanish is stronger than my Italian, and when I start trying to talk in Italian, maybe I'll feel a little bit of Spanish tripping me. But then when I've gone to Italy and started speaking, it takes care of itself. It doesn't.
Okay, and as you know, besides languages, you are also an expert in IT. So what areas in IT supports doctor to become a polyglot? Yes.
I am hardly an expert in IT. I know a lot of good sites for good information. That's what I've been trying to give you and share with you. So yeah, I mean, IT, is obviously through the internet. We have infinitely more resources available to us, and so I do get and use those. But in particular, I did most of my own actual learning kind of before the internet age, back, before about 1995, 1996 and all that period. So I'm more used to having a book and paper in my hand, and so when I'm actually learning, I feel more comfortable with that. But I think that younger people like you would not, and I think that there's infinitely more resources that you can use that are out there. So I use the computer, the internet, to get things to read and to listen to, and then I read and listen to them.
So, and we know you type very well too, and so can typing help you mastering master language?
Yeah, the exercise that I showed you, because you're the one in our group who types the best, where you take an actual text, a literary text, a story or a novel, and there's some typing programs like keyboard.com that you can put it into, and then it shows you the text, and so you're actually typing the text, and if you read it aloud and say it, so you're practicing the vocabulary, you're practicing the words, and you're doing it quickly. I've described a technique that I do for another technique I use for learning. I call my scriptorium technique, where I write things out by hand, and the point of that is to do it slowly and carefully and take care of detail and look up unknown words. So typing, you go faster, and so you don't pay so much attention to detail, but you get more volume, and so you can learn a lot of words just by extensive reading.
We are all language teachers. So one of my things that I'm very interested in is, in your experience, at what age or level should we begin to teach our children to learn another foreign language? What age is the most suitable for that?
Just children or anybody?
Children first.
What age?
I mean, on the one hand, younger is always better, because you have longer. It takes a long time to learn a language, and the more time you put into it, you get it. But yes, if you're asking for children, I think it is important to have them have a firm basis in one language, in their mother language. In your case, in Vietnamese, make sure that they're well grounded in that. If your child doesn't speak Vietnamese well yet, and you try to flood her with English, and she gets mixed messages, and she's not really in a bilingual environment, she might have trouble mixing those up. But I think that in terms of they say basically before you're about 12 or so, you're still always going to be able to pick up a natural intonation and natural sounding accent if you actually go live in the country. But if you're outside of the environment, if you're back in Vietnam and you're thinking, okay, can I take my 7-year-old, my 8-year-old, and just give her some English every day, a little bit every day, as compared to waiting until she's 11 or 12 and then saying, let's give her more systematically. Is the 8-year-old or the 7-year-old, is she going to be an advantage over the 11-year-old? I'm not sure that that's really the case.
Yeah. So 7 years old?
I mean, how are you going to teach it to her? You're talking about your daughter?
not only my daughter, but children in general. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, as we know about the A factors, it's children and with especially with pronunciation or speaking and listening.
Yeah,
Right.
How about the other fields of the language? And because when we help teach children to learn another language, it also makes them have difficulties in distinguishing and using the language. Do you think so?
Yeah, that's what we say. I mean, when a child gets to be older, about 11 or 12, then the child is more cognitively able to process and understand and make relationships, or to think like an adult and learn a little bit better. So, I don't know, to start learning a language for children, it depends on how much actual exposure you can give them. It's not going to hurt them, I don't think, under most circumstances, but whether it's really going to help them, unless you really give them a lot of input, I'm not sure about that either. So.
But the younger a child learns a language, the better her or his pronunciation will be. That's I'm sure.
Yes.
Right? If they if they are 11 or 12 years old, they can be better at grammar, but not at pronouncing anymore, because they are like they get used to their own language, their mother tongue's pronunciation, and it's difficult to adjust.
I think that is true. You know, that's why I said not just for children, but for anybody. The younger you start learning a language, the better. So, if you're 18 compared to when you're 28, you'll probably have a better chance of developing an accent. But yes, if you're 8 compared to 18, you'll have a better thing. There's definitely a basic cutoff point of puberty when your body starts to change, and also your mind starts to change. It seems to make a big difference. And there are some studies that say, you know, you really have to be quite young to really get the accent. But I know so many people that have, I mean, if you were to take an 11-year-old and move her, say, from Vietnam to America, and she really gets plugged into English all day, every day. I've known people like that. When they grow up, you can't tell that, you know, that wasn't their first language. So as long as you're, you know, as long as you're before about 13, 14, if you're truly immersed in a language, I think you can still pick up the accent.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so and we also want to study other language too. And so, what suggestion would you like to give us to begin and achieve many languages?
Okay, if you want to succeed in learning languages, there's a handful of things that you have to have or do. And I think if you truly want to succeed in learning languages, the most important thing is your mentality, your attitude, your mindset. Okay, why should you learn foreign languages? If you just have, like I said, if you just have that practical mindset, there's no particular need or reason to do so. So you need to have a greater interest. You have to really want to. I've met lots of people who say, oh, I want to learn this language, but the fact is they don't really want to deep in their heart. So, you know, that's, I'd say, the most important thing is the mindset, the mentality. If you have that, the attitude also in that is also the attitude that so you first have to think, I want to learn foreign languages. And then you also have to think and believe in your heart, I can succeed, because I've met a lot of other people that think, oh, I can't do it. It's, you know, it's hard. You know, I'm too old, something like that. So that's the most important thing. If you have the mindset of want to, really want to, and I can, that'll carry you a long way. Then, in order to get started, you also have to have some good materials. You have to have the right stuff to work with. You have to have good, you know, source stuff to learn from. And then if you have good resources, you have to know what to do with them. You have to know what kind of techniques, how to study with them, what you should do with them. I mean, you can't just pick up a book and expect it to come into you. You have to know how to, you know, get out of the book. And then if you have the good resources and the know-how how to use them, then you need to develop the habit. You need to, you know, do it.
Yeah.
You need to really get into the routine of studying regularly and systematically. And if you can do that, then you'll be all right. If you do that for a long time, that's the final thing. I mean, just if you want to get started learning a language, don't start out of enthusiasm thinking, oh boy, this is something I'm going to start and I'll get done and I'll be perfect in 2 weeks or in 2 months' time. It takes a long-term commitment. So if you keep all those things in mind, you can do it.
Like the body, the body. When we feel hungry, we must eat.
Yes.
Okay, so.
And like I said, I
learning.
think to me, learning is like feeding the mind, exercising the
feeding
mind.
Food for thoughts.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So now you are full of languages. How many hours a day do you spend on nourishing them?
Oh, would you believe it? A lot. I would say, 8 or 9.
8 or 9.
Yeah. Yeah.
You work from the morning till 5:30,
Yes.
and then still you spend 9 hours on nourishing them.
Well, I get up very early.
Oh.
Okay. I get up very early and I write Arabic and I read some other languages and when I exercise, when I go running, I listen to tapes. You've seen me at lunchtime. I go out at lunchtime. I go into an empty classroom and read a book. While I'm walking around, I read a book in a foreign
And now
language.
you have a book here.
Yes.
It is a Russian book. Dr. Alexander.
Yes.
The name. Can you read the name of the book?
It's Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. And what was I saying? So yeah, I mean, when I take a break, when I ride home, I listen to things. I count. In doing that, I mean, I count that. I read books to my sons in French. I count that. So it's all using. I'm past studying in the sense of learning new languages. I feel like I really have to cut back on what I know. But in terms of using the languages that I know, I do manage to make not much time.
Yeah. We are unluckier than batch 8 because they were taught by you for 2 subjects. Only one IT subject we are learning now is taught by you. So what subjects would you like to teach to benefit the language learners the most?
Oh, that's really interesting, and unfortunately that's something I haven't had the opportunity to do as much as I want to. I mean, the courses that I have here are sort of set in the program, but the course that I think I could do best, I mean, if I ever had lots of students like you who really are interested in the questions that you're asking, you really want to learn languages, I think the courses that I could teach would be along those lines, the things that I was just telling you about. I mean, how do you know what's the best materials for you? How do you know what techniques you should use? So that's something that I have a lot of know-how and experience in. So if I could show people, okay, what should you do, to be, I would say study skills more than anything else. What should you do to study languages effectively? What should you do to be an efficient language learner? That kind of course is what I could teach best, I think.
So why don't you recommend Arguelles C? Yeah. Or we can recommend them when we have the feedback papers. Yeah.
All right, that'd be good.
Hopefully the course and the curriculum will change for batch 10, for example. So they will be both batch 8 and 10 are luckier than we are now.
But thanks to you.
We sacrifice. We sacrifice ourselves. Right.
So based on that idea, we think have you ever thought of establishing your own language academy, where on your experience as well as your profile apply for teaching languages?
Yes, definitely. I mean, that's sort of one of my long-term lifetime dreams, is to, wouldn't necessarily have to be my own institute, but to be at an institute that would be kind of devoted to what I just said, to helping people who, it should be an intensive foreign language learning institute where people would come with the intention of not just learning a language, but learning how to learn a language. That's something that, in my knowledge, and a lot of other institutes and academies, that's never really touched on openly. People don't say that. It's like, oh, you go here to learn this language or that language, but it's not openly said. You come here and you learn skills for learning a language, so it will help you while you're here with this language, and then later on, if you're studying on your own.
Yourselves,
right. So definitely, that's one of my my dreams.
Yeah. So tell me more about an ideal institute. What would it be like?
Well, it would have.
You would have me.
Not just me. It would have the
But
other.
to be the core.
Well, yeah, I'd like to have, the other teachers would be ideally people, other, people like me, polyglots who had ideally different perspectives from mine. I mean, the way I learn is one way, and that might be suitable for you, but maybe not for you. And so, what I'd like to have in this ideal place, the core of it would be the physical resources, all different materials for learning, all different languages. What usually happens in most language laboratories, a new edition will be published, they throw the old one out, and the new one isn't necessarily better than the old one. And there are a wide variety, and in most institutions and academies, they have sort of maybe one approach, one idea, one way that they teach. So I think that the ideal place would not have a particular approach or particular idea, would house all of them. And have sort of consultation staff to help people choose what was appropriate for them. And well, these consultation staff, they could be from all over the world too, but then there should also be other teaching staff would be native speakers who, rather than giving classes so much, rather than having this class for French or Vietnamese meet at some time in the morning, the French or the Vietnamese teacher should meet with each student individually and give conversation practice on a more frequent basis, but most of the time, the students should be learning with these materials on their own, and then if the students came from all over, they could sort of pair off in groups too and help each other. So it would be actively communicative in that sense as well. So yeah. And then in terms of the physical environment, could be kind of like this. I like the idea of studying outside a lot. I like the idea of being in nature. So
Alexander Academy in the middle of the rainforest.
In the rainforest, yes.
Excuse me. Can other people ask questions for this?
Sure.
Maybe this makes the video is more interesting.
Okay.
Come in, please. Come and make question, please.
You will go to Vietnam sometime to
set up a
job there.
Ideal Academy in Vietnam.
If they want
me
to,
please take a seat.
If they want me to, I'll be happy to.
There's one teacher come from England. His name is David. He came as a volunteer to do the job in some school, and he loved
I love this yellow leaf.
I know, we're talking about provinces and changing of weather, so this is something you can see in autumn.
And because you are holding this yellow leaf, so I have a very nice surprise for you. You have more interviewees coming in, and I'm sure that our interview will be really very interesting. Yeah.
Yes.
Hello. We have more people interested in Dr. Alexander.
I don't even know these people.
Hello.
My name is Vera Vuring.
Okay, please take a seat, please.
Hallo, ik ben Cora Vuring. And we are speaking Dutch. So maybe we can speak some Dutch
Ik
words.
kan ook Nederlands spreken, mijn uittaal is niet zo goed, want ik heb nooit de gelegenheid met de Nederlandse taal. Maar ik kan het doen.
Ja, je kan het heel goed. Heel goed. Je kan het heel goed. Ja, dankjewel. En kan je al het Nederlands verstaan?
Ja, ik begrijp het.
Ja. Want,
ik kan Nederlands goed lezen en ik kan Nederlands luisteren ook goed horen. Maar ik was alleen, dan was ik de laatste keer in Nederland, was 10 of 15 jaar geleden. En ik heb nooit de gelegenheid Nederlands te spreken.
En hoe kan dit dan? Ja, hoe heeft u dit geleerd?
Ik heb het alleen geleerd met een boek en gezeten. Kennen jullie die methode Assemien?
Nee.
De methode Assemien, dat is een Franse methode om vreemde talen te leren.
Ja.
En ze hebben een boek met ongeveer 100 les. En je moet de les horen en meespreken en dan kan je het taal spreken.
En hoeveel tijd kost dat dan voor je om zoiets te leren, om een taal te leren?
Voor mijn taal, zoiets Nederlands te leren, niet te lang. Want ik kan goed Duits. Misschien spreek ik Duits, yes. Misschien Groningen.
Ja, een beetje Duits.
Ik spreek Duits, ja. verzoek mijn Duits in het Nederlands te omkeren.
Ja.
Ja, en
Ja.
dat klopt.
En we hoorden al dat je heel veel verschillende talen kan spreken.
Dat meer of minder, ja.
Ja. En wat is dan echt een van de moeilijkste talen om te leren?
Voor mij dat was Koreaans.
Oké.
Ja.
En wat maakt het zo moeilijk of is dat lastig?
Het verschil tussen het Engels en het Koreaans is heel groot. De woordenschat is heel anders. De grammatic, alles, de uittaal. Er staat is niets in gemeen met het Engels of het Frans of het Duits.
Want oorspronkelijk komt u uit de US,
Ja.
toch? Ja, oké.
Ja.
En toen kwam je erachter van, goh, ik leer best wel makkelijk talen. Of hoe ben je zoveel talen gaan leren?
Het is een feit dat om een taal te leren moet je hoe kan ik dat zeggen? Om een taal te leren moet je een goede methode hebben,
Ja.
je moet de tijd geven en je moet voor mij een vergelijkende taalwetenschappen. Zo voor mij kan ik de oudere Germaanse talen, zoals Middel-Nederlands kan ik spreken, lezen in Middel-Nederlands.
Dat kunnen wij niet
eens. Ken je niet?
Nee.
En ik kan ook de oudere is Gotisch, zeg maar dat?
Ja, Gotische talen.
De Gotische taal,
Ja.
de Gotische taal, de oude Scandinavische talen, ook, ja, en oud-Duits, Middel-Duits, en dan kan ik levende Duits goed spreken,
Ja.
en dan kom ik de Nederlandse, dat is niet te moeilijk.
Oké.
Nee, Duits en Nederlands hebben we wel aardig overlap.
Lijkt het op elkaar.
Ja,
Ja.
lijkt het wel.
En reis je dan ook heel erg veel om al die talen ook?
Oh ja, ik was in Korea om Koreaans te leren. Ik was in Libanon om Arabisch te leren. Ik was in Duitsland, in Europa een paar jaren en nu ben ik hier.
Ja, leuk.
En hoe blijft hij hier nog lang?
Dat weet ik niet, nee, dat weet ik niet. Ik ben al een jaar of misschien een jaar of 2 hier. En misschien nog 1 jaar hier en dan ik wil graag in Nederland leren.
Nou, prima.
Dat kan ik ook doen. Ja.
Maar het klinkt echt wel, het is echt wel heel goed.
gewoon,
Ja, we kunnen gewoon praten.
ja.
Dat is echt wel heel knap hoor.
Het is werkelijk de eerste keer dat ik Nederlands gesproken
Ja,
heb.
dachten ze al.
Ze wilde het checken.
Zij het 15 jaar misschien. Ja.
Knap hoor. En dat hij het gewoon zo weer oppakt.
Ja, even schakelen en hoppa.
Ja.
Knap hoor. Nee, want ze zeiden al van ja, volgens mij kan hij ook Nederlands, maar check het maar even of hij het echt kan. Hij
Ja,
zou
ja.
daar goed zijn.
Nederlands is niet een van mijn beste taal. Het is een van mijn zwakkere talen.
Nou, moet je
Ja.
nagaan.
Je kunt wel gewoon.
Ja, knap hoor. Echt heel knap. Heel bijzonder. Ja, nee, maar...
Eén vraag stellen.
Ja?
Hoeveel talen spreekt u, weet u dat?
Nee, ik weet het niet.
Nee?
Ik weet
Ongeveer,
het
een schatting?
niet. Ongeveer kan ik zeggen dat ik Nederlands spreek?
Ja,
Oké.
zeker.
Als ik Nederlands spreken kan, dan kan ik ook veel andere talen.
En ongeveer hoeveel verschillende talen?
Beter als Nederlands kan ik 6, 7, 8. Zoals Nederlands misschien 20.
En wat staat nu nog bovenaan het lijstje om te leren? Of is er geen taal meer waarvan u zegt?
Oh, is het veel talen dat ik nooit vaak zou leren.
En welke
maar
staat nu bovenaan? Welke zou u het allerliefst nog willen leren?
ik heb geen tijd meer. Om een taal te leren, dat kost een beetje tijd. Maar om een taal goed te leren, om het werkelijk te beheersen,
Ja,
om het te beheersen, meer tijd.
Oké,
Ja.
dus-
En dan, om dat te doen, dat kost meer. Also ik heb ontdekt, misschien 10 jaar geleden, dat als ik nog meer talen zou leren, dan zou ik niet die taal die ik reeds geleerd heb,
Ja.
goed beheersen.
Ja.
Dat heeft veel belang voor mij.
Ja, dus
Dat
u
te
kiest er
doen.
nu voor om geen nieuwe talen meer te leren, maar om de talen meer te ontwikkelen, om het
Ja.
echt goed te
Ja.
leren spreken.
En misschien ook de cultuur erachter,
Dat
erbij.
is- ja, de cultuur.
Ook echt,
ja. Zoals het Nederlands ten voorbeeld. Ik heb een boek van Jan van Aken.
Jan van Aken, ja.
Dat was de valse dageraad. Hebben
ken
jullie
het
dit
boek
boek
niet.
gelezen?
Nee.
Dat heb ik gelezen 2 jaar geleden. Dat heeft me heel goed gevallen. En ik wil graag zijn andere boeken lezen. Maar ik kost geen tijd. Er zijn er 24 uren in jaar.
Ja, en meer heeft u niet.
Meer heeft het niet. Ja.
Loop allemaal tegenaan. Ja. Echt bijzonder inderdaad. Nou,
Dank u wel.
Vielen Dank.
Bedankt.
Ja, bedankt.
Hij kan goed Nederlands praten.
we checked it, it is very good.
We're so proud of him.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Dutch is not one of my good languages. Dutch is one of my weak languages.
We can understand each other perfectly. And we a slight German accent he has, but it's completely understandable. Yes.
And he teaches only one language among your various languages.
Yes.
10 languages.
Yeah.
Can speak well.
Can I take a picture with you?
Oh yes, of course.
Let's stand to make sure everybody